Hey everybody, it's 123 Baseball back. Week 4 of the pod this week. Had a hell of a week this past week. Had some big series with Southern Miss going to TCU, Florida playing Miami, Clemson playing South Carolina. Had a lot of crazy stuff go on this past midweek and the midweek prior that we covered last week. A lot of big ranked matchups coming in these in-state rivalries between Coastal and UNC, Troy, Alabama. Auburn, UAB had a lot of good in-state matchups these past 2 weeks. This past weekend, Southern Miss traveled all the way down to TCU, dropped the Friday night game, came back, domination Saturday, Sunday. Callaway, what you got there?
Hey, man, anytime you can go on the road and win a series against a ranked team, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself. You know, Southern Miss is usually going to go out there and pitch it. They give up, unfortunately, five and lose a close one on Friday night, and they come back and only give up, 3 runs in the other two games. We won't talk about the Mississippi State game after that because they gave up a few more than three in that one. But yeah,
5 times as much.
Anytime, 6 times as much. But anytime you can go on the road and take the series from a good TCU team on the road, it's solid, especially after dropping that first one to rebound like that and win the next two is big.
Yeah, college baseball especially, it's tough having to get these kids out of the hotel room after a tough, hard-fought loss on Friday night. And I mean, Ostrander, he's always going to get those guys back right, and they're a bunch of gritty winners over there. Florida played Miami this weekend. Wins Friday, Saturday, drops the Sunday game, giving up 6-7 runs there in the sixth inning. Not an ideal Sunday showing from Florida, but I mean, you take the series against the in-state rival, you can't really complain much. You got anything from Florida, Miami?
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably went as I expected it to for the most part. Florida kind of looked the part of the better team there, the majority of that, and they went into that I believe fifth inning on Sunday, winning the game, and it just kind of fell apart for them. I guess there was a lot of things that just didn't really go their way. A couple soft hits, maybe a couple misplays. They just kind of unraveled there in that Sunday game. But I mean, Florida's kind of battling some injuries right now. It looks like Capalella on Saturday kind of twinged something and came out of the game after only 2+ innings. Kyle Jones is out for the year, who's a big transfer for them from Stetson, center fielder. He's been kind of banged up, dealing with something all year. So I saw that he's going to be out for the year. So that's a big blow for the Florida defense and sitting there at the top of the lineup. But no, I mean, as long as they've got Liam Peterson and hopefully Capalella's good, we'll wait to see what his prognosis is and how much time he'll miss. But anytime you have those two guys and Neely in the bullpen, McNeely actually, and Philpott, it's some pretty good arms. So yeah, I think Florida looked the part of the better team for the most part of that weekend, and they just had 1 or 2 innings get away from them on that Sunday game. So they'll fight through some injuries and yeah, that one went about as expected for me.
Yeah, that was a big SEC ACC matchup this past week, and you don't really see that too much anymore. All these big schools kind of just play cupcakes leading into the conference play as they should. And another big SEC ACC that we're going to get every year, Clemson, South Carolina. I love the setup of the series. I love the home and home and the neutral. I think a lot of teams should start doing that more often. I know ECU and UNC does that. I love it. I think that's great. Clemson sweeps South Carolina in dominant fashion. I mean, Kanak, excellent on Friday night, per usual. Clemson bounces back the next 2 days and just handles business no matter where they're playing at. It's pretty difficult traveling around like that. I mean, bouncing from place to place to place 3 straight days in a row. But yeah, Clemson gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good starting pitching wins. South Carolina loses a tough one Friday night. Kanak was not maybe his sharpest, I would say. He hasn't really been his sharpest all year. So Clemson's looking for a little bit more out of him. But he was not bad by any means. But then you roll out Saturday and you load the bases with nobody out in the first inning. South Carolina does. You come away with 0. And from that point forward, Darden just kind of rolled the rest of the way, going 7 innings, not giving up any earned runs or runs in general. Titsworth closes it out. You get a pretty easy win there. Clemson seemed to tack on some runs late in that one, and then also Sunday, that game was a little closer than the score indicates, but Clemson put up some runs there at the end that kind of stretched it out. But South Carolina didn't really have any answers to the Clemson pitching staff really all weekend. It was just kind of a subpar effort, I would say, offensively from the Gamecocks.
Yeah, Vandy went and traveled on the road out to L.A. Long trip from Nashville over there. Played UCLA, UConn, and USC out there, and they won Friday night against UCLA, but then ended up dropping Saturday to USC, and then dropped the Sunday game to UConn. Not the best showing from Vanderbilt this weekend. UCLA bounced back on Tuesday night, beating Michigan 22-5. So, UCLA is a real team. Michigan's a very good ball club. Vandy handled them with ease Friday night, but then just finds a way to skid against USC and UConn. Anything why you would think Vandy just didn't show up Saturday and Sunday?
Early in the year-ish, Vandy's kind of bouncing all over the place. Going from Nashville to they played at Gulf Coast or Grand Canyon opening weekend.
Yeah.
Over there on the West Coast, and then you go over here on the West Coast again. Maybe it's the bouncing. I think this has kind of been the story for Vanderbilt for a little while now. They're just maybe not that next echelon of team that they were for so many years, 15, 16, 17, 18 with Kumar and Leiter and Austin Martin and J.J. Bleday and, guys like that. Maybe just the lineup's not as dynamic, and neither really are the arms. Like, they've got some good players, that's for sure, but maybe it's not the caliber of player we're used to seeing Vandy have. But maybe it was just the West Coast swing. I don't know. It's a long season, so hopefully we see a little bit better showing from Vandy going forward.
Yeah, we'll really see what most of these teams, especially coming into SEC play here next week. I think it's going to be a long ride for these SEC programs this year. The conference is absolutely stacked. Staying in the SEC also, it's kind of a bummer for Tennessee and some eyes, not really mine. Azuna got rejected by the NCAA. I think it's the correct ruling. I don't think that you should just get an extra year because you played JUCO baseball. I think he handled it in a wrong way by transferring out to go play D2 and then seeing Pavia get that ruling to come play because of JUCO, and then just hopping on the bandwagon, see if he could sue the NCAA, take him to court with it. I think it's the right ruling by the NCAA. You got any opinions on this?
I think we talked about it a pretty good amount when it was like coming to a head the first time. It's just, I don't know. You got Tony V still complaining out there in the media that the fans need to come and do something about it. I don't really know what he expects them to do, cause a fuss in the media. I'm not sure what that would do. But, yeah, we talked about it. We don't need 25, 26-year-olds in playing college baseball. It seems just a little excessive. I understand the reasoning with the Pavia ruling coming down and everything like that. But I don't know. I don't know where this goes. I'm not sure if they're going to continue to fight this or not. But maybe he should have just stayed at University of Tampa and rode it out.
It's a different UT down there, but still hell of a program. Best D2 program in the last 10 years, I would say. But we're going to stay in the SEC here. We're going to have a little bit of a little extended conversation about the Texas A&M Aggies. Absolute debacle going over there on in College Station. You've lost 5 of your last 6. You lose one to Cal Poly. You lose one to Texas State. You lose one to UTSA. This preseason, I understand preseason rankings. It's just a bunch of hype. You don't really know what you're going to get from teams until they go out there and finally play. The starting pitching has not been a problem for A&M at all. All 3 starters have a sub 2.7 ERA, 66 to 13 K to walk ratio. That's borderline elite numbers from a 3-man rotation on the weekend. You can't get much better than that. Their hitters, they only have four hitters that have played in all 11 games. So they've only had four staples in their lineup. They keep switching around everybody. Only three hitters are hitting above 300. Two of those being the ones who have played in in all 11 games, and then two hitters batting over 1,000 OPS. It's just not good enough. I mean, and you come in with this big preseason attention like you're one of the best rosters in college baseball history. People were saying it's an unbelievable roster in College Station. NIL's paying all these guys crazy amount of money, and it's just been the complete opposite. I don't know if it's like the guys can't handle it. They can't handle the pressure of being the so-called best team in college baseball history. All this stuff that I've heard from all over the place, but what do you got? I mean, I think it's just been a debacle in College Station.
Yeah, man. I mean, maybe this is where you see the inexperience of a first-time head coach, a younger guy who's never done it before, and maybe that's what Schloss gave you, was a big-time leader in that spot, keeping guys mentally in a place to go out there and stay hungry every single day. And usually, I feel like you see this which is what's so impressive about Tennessee, coming out and playing with their hair on fire. Like they're coming for back to back is what it is the way they're playing. Is usually you see the team that wins it kind of take a step back, a little championship hangover, if you will. But A&M, who was right there in the final, you think that would maybe push them even more. Like they would have come out with something to prove, coming up just short last year. But it seems to me as if they've lost all edge at all. I mean, maybe they just think, oh, we made the final last year, we'll just roll the baseball out and beat up on some of these teams. And that is just not happening. Like you said, though, the pitching staff is certainly not the issue. Prager, Miles Patton, and Justin Lampkin have been fantastic for A&M, about as good as you could get from a starting rotation there. It's the offense. I mean, losing Grahovic obviously hurts. Your preseason player of the year, probably preseason Golden Spikes favorite, Laviolette, he's hitting 225. Your big time portal addition that you brought in, Gavin Cash from Texas Tech, he's at 222. He's got one home run. A lot of their guys just aren't producing right now, and we know they're talented, and we've talked about it before that this is not who they are. But I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if it's a players come to Jesus meeting or Michael Early putting his foot down and telling them, this is what we have to do. We got to tighten up. We're not Texas A&M doesn't win the games just because they're Texas A&M. But 7-5, not what you wanted, to start it out. But like you said, I mean, any team in the SEC, if you get hot, like it doesn't seem to be an issue. But they are certainly not rolling right now. Not firing on all cylinders at all. I mean, getting shut out by Oklahoma State. You only scored 2 runs against an Arizona team that has been, subject to giving up some runs, which they ended up having a pretty good weekend this weekend in Houston. It just hadn't been good all the way around for Texas A&M, and I'm not sure what kickstarts their season, because it just kind of seems like they're sleepwalking through this.
Yeah, I mean, we got about 12 more weeks left in the season, so we'll see what happens with A&M, but it's not looking like the best. But on the flip side, UNC, they played 6 games last week. They won all 6 of them. I mean, are they playing an MLB schedule in the ACC? I mean, you play Monday, you play Tuesday, you play Wednesday, you're off Thursday, and then you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you come away with 6 wins. I mean, I don't care who you are and who you're playing. With a college bullpens, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, granted, they played all these games at home. That makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to travel much, but it's still impressive. I think UNC is one of the best teams in the country this year. I think they're going to be easy Omaha pick for me. I think they're going to make it. I don't necessarily think they're going to have it all to win it. I think I've seen some sketchy parts with that back end of the bullpen there. But I've been impressed so far.
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday to Tuesday, they played 6 games last week. And I didn't check the weather up there, but somehow, conveniently, their game yesterday gets postponed. So maybe a little break for the Tar Heels built in there. Maybe playing 7 games in a week, in a day, wasn't necessarily what they had in mind. But hey, at the end of the day, they did not rest on any of that and complain on any of that. They just went out there and played good baseball and ended up winning. Walking off Coastal Carolina on Tuesday, that's a top 25 win. Coastal's always really, really good. They probably needed yesterday off to, catch their breath a little bit with that ECU game getting pushed back to Monday, and then a double midweek, and then the weekend series, and then you play potentially another double midweek. I think in this College of Charleston, hopefully it rained. Maybe there was nothing going on there, but maybe it rained. But no, North Carolina. I mean, listen, I think we both had them either in Omaha or competing for Omaha to start the whole thing. So we knew what they were capable of. It's good that they're coming out here and showing it early.
Yeah, I mean, I've been impressed. Not much more I'm going to say about it, but I've been impressed. Big wins, big time bats, big time performances. Love it. We're going to transition back to the SEC here. Mississippi State goes 1-3 on the week. You drop a midweek to Troy. I mean, not a bad loss by any standards. It's a top 25 game. You lose 6-5. Had opportunities to win that the whole time. I mean, you had the bases loaded multiple times during that game. You lose to Arizona, who was skidding a little bit, but had a fantastic weekend this past week. And you lose to Oklahoma State. I mean, you beat Rice 14-3. You run roll Rice, but I mean that was impressive coming out Friday and getting that win. But then you didn't carry anything over into Saturday, Sunday, and you drop Arizona and Oklahoma State. You drop out of the top 25. I'm not too impressed with what I saw from Mississippi State last week, but then they bounced back Tuesday and beat a top number 20 team in the country in Southern Miss 18-3. So I don't know what to feel about Mississippi State. I'm like kind of all over the place. I feel like they have the arms. They have some decent bats in that lineup. I just don't know if it took them until Southern Miss to put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this has been the case since that national championship. Mississippi State has always just kind of been a team that was hard to get a feel on. They make a pitching coach change a couple of years ago. They thought maybe that would jumpstart it. They still haven't necessarily had the success they were looking for. But, Pico Khan has been great for them, 17 2/3, only 9 hits and 2 walks to 28 punchies on Friday night. So he's been good. Watching that Troy game, I mean, they rolled out some serious stuff with guys on a midweek. I mean, anytime you throttle a top 25 team 18-3 like they did against Southern Miss is impressive. I mean, they've had Noah Sullivan transferring in from USC Upstate's been really good for them. Ace Reese has been great, 6 pumps already, 10 extra base hits for him, 18 RBIs. I think I'm with you. I don't really have a feel on them. Sometimes they look great, like they're going to take that next step. And sometimes they kind of fall back a little bit and aren't maybe on that next tier. So I think just like all these teams, or a lot of these teams, you just kind of got to wait and feel it out. Yeah,
I mean, just bouncing back this past Tuesday is probably going to be massive for Mississippi State heading into SEC play next week. They have Queens this weekend, so I mean that shouldn't be too big of a problem for Mississippi State. But how these SEC teams have been playing on the weekends, you never know. We're gonna talk about some midweek mayhem once again that happened this past Tuesday and Wednesday. UNC beats Coastal 5-4 in extras on a walk-off sac fly. Tennessee hits 3 grand slams, which was a nail-biter there in about the 5th, 6th inning, tied up at 9-9. And then you turn around and you win 22-9 and you score 11 runs in the 7th to walk it off. I mean, if you're Radford in that situation, you coming into the bottom of the 7th, down 1, clawing against Tennessee, and you just give up an 11 spot and game's over.
That hurts big time.
Yeah, no, that hurts bad. That's a long ride home. A&M loses to UTSA. They dropped their 2nd straight midweek game. They bounced back Wednesday. They were in a tight ball game against Texas Southern on Wednesday. I think it was 2-2 in the 5th inning. We've been over A&M. I'm not going to get into that at all. DBU run rolls Oklahoma. I mean, that was an impressive win. Oklahoma previously undefeated. My dark horse of the year was looking fantastic, and then you roll down in there into the Dallas, Texas, and you get throttled 11-0. UCF beats Florida 13-3. LSU's down 8-1 to North Dakota State. Comes back and claws back and finds a way to win that one, and then UCLA beats Michigan 22-5. That's a big win for UCLA against a really good Michigan team. Alabama beats Troy 3-1 yesterday in a midweek game. Tough game all around. I mean, if you told me if you're a Troy fan in Alabama, one of the best offenses in the country, only scored 3 runs, and you lose that game, I mean, I would have told you you're probably lying. I mean, it's a clean baseball game. I think it was 2 hours and 10 minutes. Great pace of play for a midweek. Gotta love that if you're a player. And then Southern Miss travels up to Starkville and plays Mississippi State and loses 18-3. Not an impressive showing after a top 25 weekend series win for Southern Miss there. Callaway, you got anything on these DBU and UCF games? I mean, I feel like you're a little excited about your Patriots in Dallas.
Well, I mean, anytime you go out against a previously undefeated Oklahoma team, might I add, and you just kind of handle business, probably feels pretty good. I didn't know if I'd hear from you after that one.
I didn't appreciate that text.
Just a little friendly competition. No, it was good for DBU. They've lost some games to maybe some teams they shouldn't have early on. I mean, not a bad start by any means. They weren't super duper competitive, I would say, against LSU last week. I'm sure they would like a little better showing, but I mean, you 2-hit Oklahoma in a 7-inning run rule, 11-0. So that's always going to feel good. Krause hit 2 homers. Grant Jay hit a homer. Tallow hit a homer. I mean, that's all your guys, coming in big for them. But I mean, pitching a shutout is probably the biggest thing there for DBU. Like we talked about it beforehand, they've got all kinds of arms. So to see it culminate there in a shutout is great. I do want to take just a minute though to talk about. Obviously, we talked about Troy losing a heartbreaker in Alabama, as they seem to do sometimes. But no, it was a good, quick game. I mean, both teams played it pretty clean, not a whole lot of offense, and pretty much the only offense there was maybe the best player ever. Justin LeBron is probably, I mean, he's got basically a 1,500 OPS. He's first or second in the country in homers with 9 already after only hitting 12 last year. He's pretty electric to watch. I think he hit that slider out yesterday one-handed, it looked like. So he's probably the number 1 player in 2026, I would imagine, as of now. He's a super exciting player for the Crimson Tide. So they're going to be fun to watch the rest of the year with him leading the way.
Burris isn't draft eligible this year, is he?
I don't know.
Well, if he's not, which I don't think he is, I'm going to rescind you on that last statement you just made. I mean, I still think Drew Burris is the best sophomore in the country, but I digress. We're not going to get too far into that. He's unbelievable as well. They're both fantastic in their own sense. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit here about some weekend picks. Some big series this week. Not too heavy of a slate. ACC play opens up. I do like what the ACC does. They play the 3 non-cons, and then some teams start a little earlier. I mean, I know Florida State's playing Lipscomb this week, so they're just going to roll these weekend series back to back to back, and so on in ACC play. But UNC plays host to Stanford this week. Stanford is in their non-con weekend in May. They're playing GCU, which is still an elite weekend series. UNC just has a bye week, though. They're not playing anybody. They're just going to take that off. I don't know if I really like that. I don't think – I mean, in May, going into postseason, it could be good to rest some arms. I mean, you're going to be out there practicing throwing live anyways. You're going to throw an 80-pitch simulated bullpen probably, maybe an 80-pitch live. Who knows? DBU travels to Lafayette. Oregon travels to USC. You got anything on this weekend? I mean, I love UNC against Stanford. I love DBU, and I love Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, we throw picks out there, and I think it was pretty clear cut for the most part. I am excited. I'm planning on getting my first look at Rentaro Sasaki at Stanford now that we're kind of getting into the swing of things here. Start looking around at some other teams, some other exciting players. But I mean, he's at 360 early on in the season, so he's probably as advanced as a freshman bat as it comes. I would say for the most part. I mean, kid probably didn't he play professionally in Japan for like or no, he was the greatest Japanese high school player.
He hit like 100 and something home runs. I'll do a quick. You carry on. I'll look this up.
Which is kind of insane. But yeah, Matt Scott on the mound has been really good for Stanford. He's pitching at a 1.5. Stanford coming into the ACC. I think they made 3 or 4 straight Omahas a couple years back. So they're always a really, really good program. DBU going to take on a Louisiana team who's kind of swimming a little bit right now. They go out to the West Coast last weekend against UC Irvine and get swept in rather unimpressive fashion, I would say. So that we talked about it last week. They're still trying to figure things out. But anytime you have to play in Louisiana at the Teague, you never know. It doesn't get any easier for the Cajuns as they've got DBU this week and then Troy coming to town the week after that. So that schedule's not lightening up. So they need to make something shake there against DBU for sure this weekend.
Yeah, Sasaki, he hit 413 in his entire career. Had a 1322 OPS. No, yeah, 1322 OPS and 140 homers in high school. 140.
That's kind of insane, no?
Yeah, no, I do think that's. I mean, this is straight from MLB. MLB.com. 140 homers.
I mean, at some point, you think he just walk it.
I mean, he had a 514 on base his entire high school career. So every other at bat he was on base. Which, I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, that's still impressive. Like,
I mean, outside of Barry Bonds, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, not at all. But yeah, Callaway, this is gonna be like a nice little news segment here that I think I might add in here for each week. We're gonna break this down. Just win and loser, winner and loser. Who's your team that won the week for you, Callaway?
It's hard to pick anyone else for me than going up against your big time rival and sweeping them, right? In pretty impressive fashion. The Clemson Tigers sweeping South Carolina. We kind of talked about it a little bit already, but I mean, 3 different venues in 3 different days. That's a lot on a team to come out and play better baseball than a good solid SEC club, for 3 straight days. I mean, they kind of had. I don't want to say a stranglehold, but I would say they were in control for pretty much all 3 games. And their best player hasn't even really gotten going. Canarella has not been necessarily knocking the cover off the ball. I think he only had 4 hits this weekend. Kanak has not necessarily turned it all the way on. He's been solid, but hasn't turned it all the way on. Ethan Darden has been incredible for Clemson. And like I said, the starting pitching for them is been really good. And Kanak, when he's been your worst one, you're probably doing something right. So I would say Clemson sweeping South Carolina, giving them their first 3 losses of the year, back to back was probably the most impressive thing I saw this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's an impressive weekend series by any means. Any team that's impressive, beating your rivals 3-0. I love the Auburn Tigers this week. You creep into the top 25 after going 4-0. You beat a really good Samford team, which is always a hassle for teams in midweeks. I mean, they compete against Tennessee on the weekend prior. They always give Troy a fit. They give Auburn, Alabama. They give all these teams in the state a really tough fight. Big win, 15-8 there on Tuesday against them. Then they go out to Texas and they play Ohio State, Baylor, and Oregon State, and you sweep the weekend. You drop an unfortunate game against UAB last night, but I mean that's this week. Last week I loved them. I mean 4-0. Yeah, Ohio State's an impressive ball club this year. Oregon State, top 10 team in the country, maybe one of the best shortstops in the country. Who knows? You love that guy. Baylor's just it's a perennial Big 12 team. I mean, they're always going to compete. Maybe not upper echelon of programs, but I mean, I'd love the Auburn Tigers this week, Callaway. The team that I hated this week, though, I see. This is the one thing about early season rankings that just get me fired up. Duke has been one of the least impressive teams that I've seen this year. I mean, they've played horribly. And D1 baseball just jumps the gun, and they see Cincinnati taking 2 of 3 from Duke, and they're the best team ever. Put them in the top 25. For why? Don't know. Then they proceed to go 2-2 the next week, and they go up in the rankings. And then that finally all came full circle this week. They go 1-4. You lose a game to UNLV, and then you drop 3 out of 4 to UC San Diego this weekend. Granted, you're traveling. You're in California for 2 weeks straight. I mean, it's tough. I mean, nobody wants to do that. I mean, you're living out of a hotel room, out of your suitcase. It sucks. I mean, I've had to do it. It's not ideal. But yeah, I mean, you get all this hype after you beat Duke, who has been a very, very poor showing this year, and then you drop 4 or 5 on a week against UNLV and UC San Diego. I mean, I'm not impressed. Not impressed by Cincinnati whatsoever. Callaway, who's your worst team of the week?
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about them at length over the last, couple weeks, just because, when you're preseason number 1 and you're 7-5, it's kind of hard. I mean, A&M losing to Texas State on a midweek, then you come out and you lose to Arizona. You only score 2 runs against Arizona, who Arizona actually had a pretty good weekend. Their starting pitching seems to be coming around, starting to figure it out. Brendan Summerhill's playing pretty well for them as well. You get shut out to Oklahoma State, and you rebound. You're down 3-0 against Rice in the first inning. Now they rebounded and scored some runs there, but then they dropped the midweek to UTSA. I mean, it doesn't really get worse. I would think, especially for a preseason number 1 team. I mean, it's just not good enough. I mean, maybe I could have went, with some other team. We talked about Louisiana going out west and getting swept, in 3 unimpressive games. But I mean, when you're preseason number 1 and you're sitting here and you have a weekend like that, the offense, who's supposed to be your calling card, just doesn't show up. It's kind of hard for me to glance over that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone at lengths of A&M. Just not impressed. We had a great week. We've got an even bigger week coming up. I mean, I love college baseball. I love talking about college baseball. And I'm excited to see how the season unfolds. I'm excited to see if A&M can bounce back. I'm excited to see what some other mid-majors like UC Irvine can do in the Big West. I mean, I've been impressed with them so far this year. That's a huge weekend against Lafayette. Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by what I've seen this year. Callaway, you got anything to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just think coming in here, the ACC starting conference this weekend, you're going to start getting some of these teams that maybe had some easy runways into conference. Now it tightens up. Now it's now we have to figure out how we're going to manage the bullpen here if the starter gets blowed up, because hey, we're actually playing a pretty good team. So I'm excited. The conference is starting in the ACC, and then obviously next week or the week after that, it'll get ramped up in every conference. So I'm just excited to watch the best play against the best, and I think it'll make for the best content we can get.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I appreciate you guys for tuning in again. This is 1, 2, 3 Baseball. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.